Oh god, it's been months since anything noteworthy happened in the indie animation community. I'm gonna lose my mind if I don't get something to overanalyze right this second. 45 seconds? I'm sure I can squeeze a 10-page script out of that.
Box bites.
The Amazing Digital Circus Episode 2 trailer is finally in the public's possession. And it's already been picked cleaner than a rotting carcass at a vulture cookout within the first 3 hours of being released. So instead of making yet another "Everything You Missed in the Amazing Digital Circus Trailer" video, I'm gonna do you all one better. I'm gonna cut this trailer up into finely minced bits, add some external material for spice, and jerry-rig them all together into one coherent plot. None of it's gonna be right, but hey, this is all just for fun anyways. If you guys have your own predictions for how this episode will go next week, be sure to leave a comment below. Heck, once the episode releases, why not come back and leave a comment on how wrong I was? But for now, let's see what sugar-laden escapades our circus mates might get up to. The episode would start with a seemingly normal day in the ADC tent. Fun games, good company, and existential crises. Yeah, Pomni's still not quite accustomed to the possibility of being stuck in a glitchy video game forever, and the camera zooms in on her face as the music and background sound distorts all around her. Suddenly she looks down at her right hand and sees that it's slowly abstracting. Caine then picks her up and throws her into the cellar without hesitation, as the poor girl is begging and pleading to be let go. She falls down into the deep, dark depths for a short while, until she finally wakes up, the whole thing having been a terrifying nightmare. She falls out of bed, mirroring how she was falling before, and lands right on a nearby block, which glitches out the physics engine and sends her shooting straight up, smashing her head on the ceiling. We then get a montage of what daily life is like for the tent dwellers, with Pomni being the only one who's having problems with basic day-to-day tasks and still freaking out over everything since she's not very comfortable in this Technicolor hellhole yet. Maybe they even make the glitching on objects thing a running gag as she does her daily routine. Like the girl can't even brush her teeth without sending herself flying. Eventually, it cuts to everyone chilling on the grass, with the crew looking relaxed and Pomni just wanting it all to end, when Caine shows up with a new adventure! He tells everyone that they'll be heading to a new magical land he created called the Candy Canyon Kingdom, a place of wonder, sweets, angel food cake, arson, and a very special task for them. Turns out that their syrup supply has run dry, and that's apparently one of the lifeblood resources of the kingdom, making it seem like the equivalent to water in human society apparently. The only place to get it is the Syrup Sea, which is far away from their inland resting civilization, so they need to board a tanker truck and drive a heaping helping of it from the coast to the kingdom all by themselves. Some characters like Ragatha and Gangle are overjoyed to be visiting such a sweet and welcoming sounding place. Kinger is pretty nervous since he'll be meeting fellow royalty and he wants to keep his appearances up. Jax is pretty annoyed since he hates how fluffy the place sounds. Zooble completely refuses to tag along, which Caine is fine with. And Pomni, well, she's hanging in there the best she can. Yeah, she's not even used to the main hub area of this insane game, and now you're gonna make her go to a whole new world? Girl's not doing so hot. That is until Ragatha walks over and tries to comfort her, like the sweet teen mom she is. She asks Pomni if there's anything she wants to talk about in a very warm and inviting way. But Pomni's not quite ready to confide in any of these circus folks just yet. She's only known them for like a day, and despite having PTSD from that massive glitched out abomination chasing them and her arm almost dissociating from her body, she doesn't exactly want to open up to these people yet. Gangle, with her comedy mask actually in one piece now, yay, also tries to give Pomni some optimism, saying that there's no way a place as sugary sweet as a Candy Kingdom can have any kind of major danger. Caine then interrupts and says, "Oh yeah, speaking of danger," he snaps his fingers and plops Zooble in the middle of the stage, to act as a sort of human flip chart for visual aids. I mean, it's not like she's gonna do anything else in this episode. He poofs up a bunch of cards in her hands as he narrates. "Be warned, young tent mates, for this will be no ordinary syrup scavenger mission. If you do not keep your eyes on the road and your wits about you, there is a chance that your vehicle could be overtaken." Caine then flips to the black and white striped sign and laughs maniacally. Fun fact, by the way, black and white diagonal stripes actually means that it's illegal to pass a slow-moving vehicle, aka overtake them, while on a certain road. So that's where I got this idea from. Zooble asks if he's done yet, and Caine says, "Yep, I think I'm good." He snaps open a portal, says, "Good luck," and shoves everyone into it. At first, they're all confused, wondering if they're gonna need to walk there themselves. But before Caine closes the portal, he says that he arranged for their transport, leading to the debut of the Gummy Elephant, which wheels them over to the kingdom. While on their ride, they discuss the ominous note that Caine left them on. What does he mean by overtaken vehicles? Ragatha tries to calm Pomni by saying that he's probably talking about other drivers that'll cut them off if they move too slow. But then Jax, in a very monotone tone, says that that's probably complete bull, since he can't imagine there being any other vehicles or roads in this place. They've been traveling for hours and this place looks like it's 90% desert, so what other cars would be out there? He thinks that Caine is just trying to make this trip sound more exciting than it really is. Kinger is also in the back seat, practicing his royal etiquette and proper posture, like putting up his pinky finger. He wants to impress the princess after all. Eventually, they all arrive at the Candy Kingdom, receiving a grand welcome from all the multicolored mannequins that inhabit the place. They're overjoyed that someone is kind enough to refill their desperately drained syrup supply. In fact, one of them gets a little too grateful and charges at them, screaming at the top of his lungs with joy. Thank you, I love my syrup! Only to accidentally bump into Gangle and break her comedy mask. Because of course. Oh well, it was fun while it lasted. The gang then meet up with Princess Waffle Cone, or whatever she's gonna be called, who welcomes them warmly. Ragatha's the first to approach, maybe do a little bow or curtsy, and formally greet Her Highness, saying that they're more than capable of completing this task. Then we cut to Jax, who sarcastically says, "Some more than others," as he looks over at Pomni panicking, Gangle crying, and Kinger kinda spaced out with his pinky in the air. The princess grants Ragatha the key to the royal tanker truck, which she graciously accepts, and the team starts driving to their destination. The trip, for the most part, is pretty uneventful. We get some nice sweeping shots of the kingdom as they drive by, and maybe some banter from the circus members. Pomni is still thinking about that nightmare she had last night. Kinger asks if there's anything wrong, and Pomni looks like she's about to tell the truth, but just like with Ragatha, stops at the last second, still not comfy with sharing her inner thoughts. But Kinger, being the genius that he is, knows exactly what Pomni's problem is. She's afraid of looking improper in front of the princess when they return. Well, he can help with that, and he spends most of the trip teaching Pomni how to properly put out her pinky. Little does the crew know that they're actually being watched by a fiendish trio of jelly alligators, we'll call them the Gummy Gators for now, who want to snag the syrup for themselves and sell it to the kingdom for a jacked up price. I mean, if the Gators are their only option left, what choice does the kingdom have, right? We don't see them right away, and instead we see a blue radar screen with the circus gang's truck as the only blip. The Gator leader looks at the radar with intensity, as we get a close-up shot of his eye, not revealing his face yet, but building up the drama of his reveal. Later on during the circus gang's return trip, we see the Gators looking through their binoculars and getting ready to intercept their prey as they drive past them. I'm willing to bet that they've got Australian accents like the good old crocodile, Hannah, and they have the typical comedic trio personalities. You know, the straight man leader, the strong grumpy one, and the lovable goofball who always screws things up, and the team is really freaking annoyed by. Keep an eye on him in particular, he'll be important later. Cut back to the circus crew's truck where Jax is bored out of his mind and asks Gangle if he can drive. She refuses at first, but then he says, "Are you sure you don't want to ride shotgun? It's pretty fun," as he pulls out an actual candy shotgun that the princess gave them for self-defense, causing Gangle to cringe in fear. Just then they see a hostile truck driving by through the rearview mirror, throwing ropes over to try and board the truck and take their stash, with the goofy purple Gator trying to rack up those style points like he's in a Tony Hawk game. Suddenly, Caine's cryptic warning about overtaking vehicles is starting to make a little more sense. Everyone is very scared of what's happening, but Jax is actually pretty pumped. Finally, some excitement on this dumb little errand. He pushes Gangle out of the driver's seat and takes the wheel, leading to a super aggressive, high-speed chase. Jax starts getting a little bit too into this action sequence, however, ramming the enemy truck and shouting obscenities at them. Ragatha thinks that what they're doing probably isn't the best approach, and Jax says she's right. We should also sabotage the enemy vehicle. So he throws a shocked Pomni onto the roof of the Gator's truck, which they quickly notice and send the purple Gator to go and deal with. One hard ram is enough to send both trucks spinning out of control, however, as both Pomni and the purple gator go flying off into the distance at high velocities. The gator's truck careens into a ditch, damaging but not totaling it, while the circus gang's truck ends up plummeting off the edge of a cliff and into a fudge-filled swamp. Jax is satisfied with this little escapade, but the rest of the crew is pretty dang annoyed, Ragatha especially. And she has a little has-been Hotel Vaggie-style angry outburst where she scolds Jack for being so abrasive and ruining their delivery, as well as possibly stranding Pomni in the middle of the desert desert. As she vents, a monster slowly emerges from the fudge swamp they're trapped in, the appropriately named Fudge Monster. He tries to do a little villain monologue and toy with his trapped prey a little bit, hypnotizing them Caw style and even starting up a villain song. But then Ragatha slaps him in the face and says, "Can't you see I'm trying to scold my friend over here?" The Fudge Monster gets annoyed and says, "Oh, you're no fun," and just skips straight to eating them with his gaping mouth. Jax being on the hood of the truck is the one who almost falls in first, and it might even be a little extra traumatizing for him since he reportedly hates corn, and the monster's teeth are made of candy corn. A stretch, I know, but it could be kind of funny. But then, with the strength of a full circus audience on a good night, so, 3 people max, the other characters all band together to pull him to safety. They thwart the Fudge Monster, maybe by making him throw up or something, and everyone comes out completely unharmed. By the end, the group is still mad at Jax for obvious reasons, but more than anything, they're just relieved that he's alive. However, when his friends try to double check on him and make sure he's not injured, he violently pushes them away and just insists that he's fine, being a lot more aggressively distant rather than jerkishly sarcastic like he usually is. They decide that their next course of action is to find out what happened to Pomni. The delivery will have to wait for now. The method through which they track her could vary a bit. Like maybe Pomni and the gator went flying at such high velocities that they left cartoonish smoke trails behind them that they can easily follow. Something silly like that. So they all load into the truck and drive towards the direction where Pomni was launched. Their tracking eventually ends back where they started, at the Syrup Sea, only to find no Pomni and a passed out purple gator who landed right next to the shore and formed a bit of a gator-shaped crater. They try to wake him up, but after a fall like that, he is completely out cold. They're pretty sure that the Gummy Gators are going to cross their paths again at some point, not just for thievery, but possibly also revenge for damaging their vehicle. So they take the purple gator to use as a bargaining chip if those desert desperados try anything funny during their return trip. They spend hours searching the beach area, but still can't find Pomni. Their only option now is to maybe scour the sea itself and hope that maybe she's floating face up in the syrup or something. They turn on the truck's very convenient boat mode, push it into the syrup, and start sailing around the sea to find any signs of Pomni. The purple gator eventually wakes up and starts questioning where he is, with the gang saying that they're looking for their friend, the one that went flying because of his gang's hijacking. The purple gator appropriately gets chewed out for his criminal actions, but then smack dab in the middle of this verbal assault, the purple gator looks to the side and notices something on the shore. His 2 gator partners just arrived in their own truck, and they see some interesting shapes in the sand, including the purple gator's imprint where he fell and the circus gang's footprints from when they pushed the boat truck into the sea. He smiles at Ragatha and says, "Just you wait till my mates get here. They're gonna know you brought me out here on a boat, and trust me, they're gonna be hungry for more than just syrup." And they say that's exactly what they're hoping for. The purple gator then goes on to brag about how tough his compatriots are, how they're gonna rough them up and make them pay, and then right in the middle of talking them up, he sees the other gators just filling up their truck with syrup, not even attempting to look around for him. Then, without a second thought or even a concerned look over the horizon, they just get in their truck and drive away, with the purple gator being the only one who notices. Ragatha asks what exactly he's looking at, turning in his direction only after they've already sped off. And he says, nothing. After a whole day of searching with no luck, the group returns to the shore and retires for the night. They still have faith that Pomni somehow survived, but things are looking pretty bleak now. They decide to all take shifts watching their gator prisoner while the rest sleep in the truck, and Jax agrees to take the first shift. Once everyone falls asleep though, he doesn't even bother keeping an eye on the gator and just kinda mopes to himself while sitting on the shore. The purple gator, still tied up, then goes over to him and tries to start a conversation. You know, you, sure do have some really nice friends. I mean, they just dropped everything to make sure one of yous was safe, and they've been searching for days. You're a pretty lucky jackrabbit, you know? Oh yeah, sure, super lucky. They comfort me, they save my life, and they act like they're always gonna be there no matter what. Nothing could be better. Well, why you sound so mad then? 'Cause it never lasts. You think they're gonna be around forever, but they never are. They just leave you by the side of the road once they get what they need from you, or they realize you're just not worth it. Same song and dance every time. You wouldn't understand. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't. The purple gator then grabs 2 tin cups from under his hat, fills them up from the ocean, and hands one to Jax. Here, this ought to do you some good. What the heck would I need syrup for? How, you don't know? Well, funny thing about the syrup, see, you take one swig of this and everything starts to look all funny. Really helps you forget about life for a bit. I don't drink too much because I gotta keep me wits about me when we go on runs. But hey, don't got much need for that at the moment, right? This basically confirms that the syrup in this world isn't like water at all. It's more like a potent alcohol, making the Candy Kingdom's reliance on it a little bit strange and questionable. Well, cheers to good health whenever your friends decide to dump ya. The gator then gulps down a few mugs of the stuff and starts acting all sugary and giggly and very perky, not dissimilar to the residents of the Candy Kingdom that we saw before. He drinks so much that he passes out on his back, laughing and smiling to himself. Jax, however, takes a look at his own reflection in the mug, lets out another sigh, and just dumps it back into the sea. Maybe this implies that he just doesn't know what to do anymore. Originally, his mindset was clear. He doesn't bother getting close to anyone because he knows that even the happiness he might feel with them will be temporary, and he'll be on his own once again in time. They'll abandon him, they'll drop him when something more important happens, because eventually, everyone leaves. He tries to cover up his inner depression with comedy and sarcasm, as many people tend to do, but deep down, he's really suffering. And he's officially given up on looking for any meaningful fixes to his problems. All he looks for now is quick mood fixers or cheap thrills at other people's expense, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if people love him or hate him, no one's ever gonna stick around. But now, when presented with something similar to what he uses to cope, he actually turns it down. Maybe thinking positively about his circus friends for once, and being conflicted about his current cynical point of view. Are these friends gonna stick around? They did save my life and make sure I was okay multiple times. Nah, I've seen it all before, it's not gonna last. Or will it? As he lays back and looks at the sky, we see that Ragatha is awake and basically heard the whole conversation Princess Fiona style. But instead of confronting Jax, she just goes back to sleep and waits for her shift. Luckily, the purple gator chugged enough syrup to keep him incapacitated for a very long while, so the other watches aren't super eventful. When morning comes, they all push the truck boat back in and start looking for Pomni again, with the purple gator fast asleep. Jax is a lot more quiet than he usually is, and Ragatha takes this as an opportunity to try and get him to open up to her. She doesn't prod him too aggressively, but she does say that she's here if he needs her. She's not going anywhere. Jax is a little put off by her weird choice of wording, but he does at least thank her for that, I guess. The two end up having a conversation about the whole Fudge monster incident, and Ragatha mentions that she's glad Jax survived, listing off the things she'd really miss about him if he was gone, even if they are very, very few and far between, cause, you know, he's kind of a jerk. Kinger and Gangle join in and list off things they'd miss as well, and even Jax spends some time admitting that the circus definitely wouldn't be the same without them either. Nothing super personal is revealed, just a nice little convo between friends as they look around for their potentially drowned clown. Speak of the devil, the screen fades to black as we finally get a glimpse of Pomni again, or at least what her broken little subconscious is currently occupied with. It's basically a continuation of the nightmare she was having before, but at this point, instead of falling into the cellar, she's already landed and is surrounded by abstracted players. Instead of attacking her though, it almost seems like they're communicating with her. maybe trying to tell her ways of finding an exit, something that she's had her mind set on since the beginning. But everything is so jumbled and scrambled and indistinguishable that listening to these old players only makes her more confused and more stressed. Maybe we see the abstracted folks flash back and forth between their corrupted forms and their original forms, giving us a glimpse at what the old 10 residents used to look like. We see their doors, but we never really see their faces. As the nightmare goes on, only one word becomes clear and audible. Pomni. Pomni! Pomni! Pomni then snaps out of her sleepy state, only to hear muffled voices calling out her name, which is the gang sailing around and looking for her. Turns out that she sunk all the way to the bottom of the syrup sea after her fall. I'm not sure if it's possible for Pomni to drown in the syrup. I mean, Caine did mention drowning in the digital lake, but then again, the characters don't have to eat or drink food according to Kinger, so they don't need nutrients, but they do need oxygen? I'm gonna say that Caine's drowning talk was just him being weird because of his programming, and characters can't actually drown. Anywho, Pomni is stuck at the bottom of the sea. And I mean literally stuck. The viscosity of the syrup makes it nearly impossible for her to swim up to the surface. At first it looks like she'll never get back up, but then she actually remembers something from before. She grabs a rock, or rock candy, or whatever's at the bottom of the sea, and uses it to glitch out the physics engine and shoot her straight out of the syrup. She rockets out of the sea with the gang taking notice and rescuing her before she can sink again. Pomni at this point is losing her mind, almost looking like she's gonna abstract on the spot. I mean, going from crazy car chase to 15-story freefall to panic-inducing night terror to near inescapable situation to another massive freefall? Yeah, she's been through a lot. Everyone tries to calm her down, but none of the circus mates are able to help. Even Ragatha, who you think would be able to fix the situation, gets a little delirious herself when none of her comfort methods work. Not dissimilar to how she was prone to panicking in the pilot. Maybe she even tries to hug Pomni, but her ragdoll body sticks to her because of the syrup and almost rips. In the end, the only character who's able to make any kind of progress is actually Jax. Unlike the others, Jax is very direct and straightforward with Pomni. He convinces her to snap out of it and calm down. And once she's calm enough to listen to instructions, Jax tells her to breathe easily and slowly. His smart and direct approach is exactly what Pomni needed to calm down, and afterwards, she's able to explain to them what happened. And while she was uncomfortable confiding in the circus team before, after seeing the depths they went to rescue her, she's a bit more willing to open up. She talks about how she's scared, she's terrified, she's afraid of abstracting one day. She ended up on death's doorstep 2 days in a row now. She's still so confused by this weird place and has no clue what's going to happen, and she doesn't know what to do anymore. The rest of the 10 mates then gather around Pomni and talk about how a lot of them were scared when they first arrived too, but they managed to get used to things, and so will she. They also congratulate Jax for being the only one who was able to bring calm to that chaos. When you pair this with the personal compliments they gave him earlier, it shows that Jax really is both wanted and needed by this group, which makes him kinda happy. Happier than he's been in a while, actually. Remember, according to my theories, he cut himself off from human connections because he knows they don't last, and getting attached will only make things hurt worse when they inevitably leave. This explains why, quote, everyone at the circus hates him, because ever since he got there, he didn't form any close bonds with his 10 mates because of this pessimistic mindset. But this more personal experience with the circus crew, including saving his life, caring about his well-being, and stating his good qualities, ends up reminding him of those old times when he actually did let people into his life. At first, he's conflicted by it, still being somewhat convinced that this is never gonna last, causing his old trauma to resurface and his depression to kick in. But the more he sees how having personal relationships can benefit him, the more he's willing to let those good feelings in and just be happy for once, even if he still believes somewhat that it'll just be temporary. This experience didn't cure his depression or anything, cause trust me, I know from experience that depression does not just disappear, but it does give him something else worth existing for rather than just the sadistic thrills he gets from hurting others. Once they dock the truck back up on the beach, they figure that the only thing left to do is to transport the syrup. But Jax butts in and states that maybe it's best that they didn't make the delivery. He tells them to trust him. This stuff is not as good for the kingdom as they might think. The rest of the gang is very skeptical, except for Ragatha, who sides with Jax on this one. since, you know, she heard his convo from the night before. They're still not entirely convinced, so Jax decides to say screw it and actually gives Kinger some of the syrup to drink. And much like the Gator the night before, Kinger starts acting all fuzzy and sugary, thinking that everything looks wonderful and sweet. At this point, the others believe him, and they agree to head back to the kingdom with an empty truck. Also, in an effort to get more syrup, Kinger jumps into the sea, and they have to fish him out. On their drive back to the kingdom, the purple Gator finally wakes up from his huge syrup sea bender. The group demands that he give them some insider info about his gang, or else they have ways of making him talk. But surprisingly, they don't have to use those ways, since he's more than happy to rat his old gang out. Everyone but Jax is kinda confused, thinking he must still be wasted or something, but he does give them vital tips after they untie him, like maybe some risky but valuable shortcuts his crew used to take, or telling them that they stop every so often to set up camp, which should give them some time to catch up, and by the end of their little drive, they manage to arrive at the kingdom just before the Gummy Gators are able to sell their inflated price syrup to the kingdom. The gang then questions the princess about why her kingdom is so reliant on this syrup anyway, and then maybe she explains that in reality, the kingdom is actually suffering from a lot of problems, like overpopulation, or poverty, or poor infrastructure. So to keep the citizens from being sad, she provides them with a steady supply of syrup to help them forget their troubles while she attempts to fix things behind the scenes. To the citizens, it just seems like a fun, pleasant, sugary drink that makes them feel all tingly inside. But in reality, it's a way to make them forget their troubles that come with their broken homes. But it's gotten to the point that even the princess is starting to lose her optimism that the kingdom will ever be fixed. Heck, even she takes a swig of the sticky sap on occasions. The gang then offers a non-syrupy solution to their problem. Instead of drinking their troubles away and pretending they don't exist, why not just be truthful and find comfort in one another? They'd be sad for sure, and it wouldn't permanently fix their issues, but it would allow them all to obtain a better mental state and maybe start fixing some of the problems in the kingdom instead of ignoring them. The princess is worried at first, but she does eventually accept. The Gummy Gators are extremely angry at the circus gang since they just tanked their chance at millions. But right before they can attack the circus gang, their truck comes right up out of nowhere and runs them over, killing them instantly. And behind the wheel is, of course, the purple Gator, who snuck into their truck during the circus gang's 100 speech check to get some literal sweet revenge on the jerks that just abandoned him. With their mission complete, the gang is ready to head back to the circus. But Jax and the purple Gator share one last convo before they part ways. The Gator asks Jax if he's certain about hanging around his friends anymore. He could just live life as a lone ranger and travel the Candy Desert independently, causing chaos and living off the Candyland. That's what he's gonna do. But Jax declines, saying that even if they do end up abandoning him at some point, he's at least gonna enjoy the ride while it lasts. His sadness and insecurities aren't exactly wiped away, but he is at least willing to let people back in again. The purple Gator tips his hat and drives away in his gang's truck, which he is now the sole owner of. Once everyone gets back to the circus, Caine asks how the delivery went, and they say they actually didn't make it. They managed to aid the kingdom in a way that didn't involve syrup at all, and Caine actually doesn't know how to respond to that. He's impressed? Confused? He's not entirely sure. Now, believe it or not, this idea of completing a task in the unintended way is actually a reference. Remember how gooseworx said that Digital Circus is based on I have no mouth and I must scream? Well, without spoiling too much, the game version of the story has 5 characters, each with a major human flaw and or trauma, that are put through personalized trials crafted by the story's main villain. And to his surprise, each of them managed to overcome their flaws and become better people by the end of their trials. I would totally expect something similar to happen here, but in a less sinister way. Caine basically set up this world as a way for Jax to enjoy himself. He wants the characters to have fun, and he knows that Jax is willing to do anything as long as funny stuff happens to people. His words, not mine. So yeah, just put him in a Mad Max style truck fight where he can smash these gators within an inch of their lives and then win the day by delivering the syrup. But in the end, Jax completed the mission in a way that not even Caine expected. If that's what the series is going to go for with these different worlds and different tasks, I think it would make great use of the source material it's pulling from. And that is my prediction for the Amazing Digital Circus Episode 2. I only had a few days to write this one, but I think it ties in with the supposed themes of depression pretty well. Plus, I managed to use every single scene they gave us, not to mention tying things in with the supposed source material. Again, I expect to be very wrong in a week, but you know me, it's always fun to speculate. Speaking of which, let's hear what you guys think. What do you expect will happen in the Amazing Digital Circus episode 2? And how right or wrong do you think my guesses were on a scale from 1 to 10? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I hope to see you all real soon.